Three, two, one. Hey guys, it's Devin from Burrito, and today on today's episode of Breakfast Burrito, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about Blood of Zeus, the new anime on Netflix. Um, so I've seen people call this mediocre anime good. I've seen people say it's a must watch. I'm gonna go ahead and lead off with the opposite. But before I get into the bad, obviously it helps to start with some of the positives. Um, I think one of the most positive things about the show is its art style and design. The show looks beautiful. I will give it that. I can't take that from it. It's done by the same studio that does Castlevania, and in my opinion, Castlevania happens to be one of the best designed shows. So I can't really obviously it wouldn't be fair to say one is poorly designed where I think the other one is great, because I don't think either one is poorly designed. Um, Another positive are they have some pretty strong characters, like character moments, but not motivation, just character moments. And I think that's very apparent in Apollo, Hermes, Zeus, Hera. Another thing, you don't have to humanize all the gods. You don't have to make them weaker in order for them to be relatable. You can make them better characters. And this was notable from Apollo's reaching out to Heron in the sense that he said a few things. He was like, to the mother, he was like, I also was born out of wedlock. He made himself a very relatable character, because he knows what it's like to go through Hera's wrath, I guess. Actually, his story is pretty good. In Greek mythology, when Leto was pregnant with Artemis and Apollo, Hera would not allow the land to let her give birth. So they had to like stealth find this island, and Poseidon made it float. And when the baby was born, like when the babies were born, they were like, yo, please just let her have these damn babies. She was in labor for like a week or something like that. But yeah, Apollo making himself seem like, a a bastard, for lack of a better term, and humanizing himself. I think that's the way you humanize the characters, not just making them weaker so that they're almost human level, because then that destroys the point. If they're gods, let them be gods. I think one more great thing about it is the potential. Um, because Greek mythology is so vast, diverse, and deep, they have a lot of source material to work with. Um, and the final thing I want to say is the music. The musical score is absolutely amazing. Um, I think the songs for the intro, outro, fight, combat, like combat scenes, soft scenes, I think all of that is handled fantastically. It's all like I would say that the music in the show is phenomenal. Cool. So now with all of the positives out of the way, before we get too into it, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a backstory. When I heard a couple months ago that there was going to be a Greek mythology themed anime coming out on Netflix, I was super hyped. I love Greek mythology. It's some of the coolest source material, and I think, or I've always thought that any media that portrays that in any kind of way, most mythology, but in particular Greek mythology, since I learned about it in like fifth grade, um, you know, as everyone else has, I guess. Um, Besides that, so I thought that there was an immense amount of potential with this source material. And the issue, the only issue I would have had would be if it was like a complete retelling, or if it fell flat and just did the same thing over and over again. Fast forward to this past weekend where I watched the entirety of Blood of Zeus's first season. I don't know if they're getting a second season. I hope not, but it seems to be trending well. Actually, right now it's number 10 on Netflix, but that just destroys my faith in humanity. So I'm gonna pretend it's just because it's new. Um, anyway, I don't think anyone should waste their time watching this show, and I watched it one and a half times, so you don't have to. Blood of Zeus follows the main character Heron, who happens to be, as the title would suggest, the son of Zeus. Um, Now, when you start watching it, you see a lot of parallels to other heroes, and so sets itself up in a way where it's going to mirror Perseus or Hercules, and it's just a new character. And they even take inspiration from the origins of both of those heroes. For example, when Perseus meets the Fates, Heron meets the Fates in a very similar way. And when Hercules, like the birth of Hercules, with Zeus having impregnated a king's wife, even that is taken and put into Heron's upbringing. So, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, cool, this is going to be a Hercules Perseus combination. And then Zeus mentions both Hercules and Perseus. So the show acknowledged the fact that they were blatantly ripping off these other two well-known heroes, and they even have them canonically exist in the show. And I think that's problematic because it just goes to add to how uninspired the rest of the story is. They squandered all of the potential they had, because using Greek mythology as a starting off or a jumping point for the show, it really goes, like, there's really a lot to work with. You have the Titans, which are referred to in this anime as giants, which that's fine. That's nitpicky. Whatever. Titans, big people. Giants, big people. Fine. Cool. They got that. So they have the Titans, which, that's pretty good. They have the gods, obviously, Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, Hades, Apollo, Hermes, etc., etc., etc. Just to name the ones that rear their heads. I find that a lot of the screen time in this show is used by characters who don't speak. I don't know if that's a budget thing, but I found a lot, like Ares has a couple lines early on, and then the next time you hear him, it's just a grunt, and then he silently stares at the ocean. He doesn't talk a lot. That's a big thing for a lot of the gods and goddesses in the background as well. Hephaestus is also a very big offender of that. He's in a lot of scenes, and a lot of the times you'll just get him silently or something like that. It's weird. I don't know if that's a budget thing, but very easily could be. The same thing with a lot of human characters. And there's even a portion where they're going through this place called the Fields of Death, and a lot of situations where you would expect someone to scream because they're confronted by like their deepest fears or deep traumas, and they're just completely silent, and then they're dead. Like it's weird. It's very weird, the amount of non-talking characters that they show like substantial screen time to. I think one of my biggest issues with the show is how they handle Hera. As we all know from Greek mythology, that Hera is spiteful, but not unjustly. She's spiteful because of the fact that Zeus is a serial cheater, and this show is no different than that. However, she seems oddly fixated on this one offspring when she's living with literally two of them. Not like Apollo and Hermes are both not hers. That's why she plays favorites with Ares. But yeah, she seems so fixated on this one offspring. And I thought, this was a retelling, so Hercules and Perseus and the rest of them don't exist. But then Zeus explicitly mentions them by name when he's training Heron. But the fact that he mentions them and she only has a problem with Heron, I don't know. It makes her character motivation seem really weak. And honestly, her motivation goes from let me kill this boy to let me kill Zeus. That makes sense. And then it goes into let me just dethrone all of Olympus. And the rest of the gods are just kind of like, wait, why? What? She comes back with the Titans to kill all of the gods, not even realizing that if she kills all of the gods, it took all of the gods to stop the Titans in the first place. So she won't be able to stop them. I don't know. She just seemed so irrational when at first her motivation made sense. The show sets up a lot of unnecessary conflict and introduces characters for one-off scenes. For example, Chiron, the centaur, he's brought up just to recreate a map and then never seen again. The show has another problem. It seems like a very uninspired storyline, a tale of two brothers, if you will. And they telegraph all of the plot twists immediately. As soon as you see Seraphim, you're like, wait, his facial structure looks very similar to Heron. I bet they're related. The second the mother said, you had a brother, I was like, oh, cool, the main villain is the brother. Literally 2 episodes later, he's the brother. Cool. You find out Zeus is able to turn him back. He's not going to want to go back, and Zeus is going to die before he even has a chance. What happens? Oh. Also, the gods in this show are so weak. For example, with the exception of Ares, for whatever reason, he's done up in a way where he's almost too strong. Compared to like other anime, I think anyone in the Castlevania universe has a fighting chance against the gods. And I'm not just saying that because like this show is like I think it's scaled weak. There's a scene where Zeus is protecting Heron as a baby, and I'm not saying like the humans are like fighting back well, but they're not really struggling. Like enough of them make it out of that encounter that makes me go, Zeus isn't that strong. Um, like some of the fights, like the only god who has any like showings that seem like even continental, um, is Poseidon. Zeus has a scene where he's trying to kill somebody with lightning bolts, and it just doesn't work. And it's weird. It's like these are supposed to be these all-powerful gods, omnipotent and everything, and they're getting not boxed, but like they're the humans are putting up a decent fight. Hermes has no fighting ability whatsoever, and he's the god that invented boxing. Like, are you kidding me? Like, he should be able to move and shake. He should be able to throw hands at least. And then we see him, like, his power is so inconsistent. We see him struggle in a fist fight, and then we see him create a tornado. And this is even seen when Zeus literally dies by using lightning. Like, he kills himself with lightning. And he doesn't even kill the thing he's trying to blow up. Spoiler, I guess. And then Zeus does a wink and then blows himself up. I don't know. I never really thought of Zeus as one of the characters that could be killed by lightning, and yet that's what happens. The show decides when and when it doesn't want to make sense, and it just expects the users, like the viewers, to go along with it. And then they just have portions of the show where the show just straight up lies to you. The sword is supposed to be able to cut everything, and yet Heron is able to block it with the shield. It's things like that. The giants, like if they're burned, then everyone who's born of them dies and their powers disappear. But then when a character who was a demon dies, their soul is still a demon. What? These characters, like you're just so uninvested until one of the characters you like is on screen. And it feels like there's no stakes at most of the time. And then like the climax is super anticlimactic. It's like fight a bunch of birds, then go fight your brother. So the plot itself is probably my biggest gripe with the show. And the thing about that is, I have more hair down here, I swear. And the thing about that is, the plot essentially became let's go burn the giant's body. And I remember sitting there thinking, the gods had all of the giants in prison, right? Why didn't they just burn the bodies if they could be burned? I mean, gods are the ones that gave humans fire, so if they could just be burned, why didn't they just do it? I don't know. I think that's one of the biggest plot holes, and I have a huge problem with that. Also, this whole Zeus trying to become a father now, again, like I said before, he's mentioned Hercules, he's mentioned Perseus, and he even started talking about Cronus and his father, but also Cronus is never acknowledged. It's weird. So it doesn't make much sense for him to try and become a good father now. They just kind of wrote that in so that there was an emotional payoff when he died. It was dumb. Truthfully, it was dumb. For Zeus's character specifically, just double down. he is the king of Olympus. He can do what he wants. They started doing that. They tested the waters with it slightly in episodes 1 and 2, and then they just threw it to the wind. They just did not care. They were like, you know what? We're going to try and make him redeemable. But it wasn't really redeemable. He was still cheating. And he didn't really say, like, he didn't even acknowledge that he would stop cheating until she threatened to kill everyone. He said, to you, I will be, only to you will I be true. And she was like, on one condition. And he was like, all right, anything. And she was like, kill him. And he was like, yeah, nah. Come on, man. You can't have it both ways. Like, I don't know. Zeus was characterized super weak for me. The power of the gods also doesn't seem consistent at all. It's stated that Zeus was the strongest, but all of Hera's showings seem higher in scale than his, until the final thing where Zeus kills himself. I think they could have, just double down on the powers. They're gods. They can do what they want. I mean, Poseidon is known as Earthshaker. If he hits his trident to the ground, the entire world shakes. You don't have to scale that down. Show that. Give the humans a reason to be afraid of them. You have these humans thinking that they're like, oh, it's just a god. Yeah, it's a god. You shouldn't want to fight that. If you enjoy things like Sword Art Online, you'll probably enjoy this. Even that being said, I don't think it's worth watching that over anything else, because of the fact that I feel like it suffers from the same issues that a lot of generic anime suffer from. They just tried really hard to give it a happy ending when, I don't know, a lot of Greek myths don't have a happy ending because that's not the type of stories they are. I mean, we get comedy and tragedy from Greece. So it could have been a tragedy. Matter of fact, I think it should have been a tragedy. I want more death. I want Heron dead. I want Seraphim dead. I want Hera too. She could go. Zeus, he's already dead. What, might as well double down. If this story was the Ragnarok of Greek mythology, I think it would have been excellent. Truthfully, I think it would have been excellent. But what we got was the PBS Kids version of Disney's Hercules. I don't know, guys. I'm just gonna keep this one short. I think if I had to rate Blood of Zeus, probably like a 5 out of 10. Obviously it's not the worst thing that's ever existed. It took up some time, one season. I think that's enough for this show. If it gets a season 2, I'll be surprised. But I don't think you should watch this over anything else. If it came down to Castlevania and this, I say watch Castlevania. If it came down to Scissor 7 and this, I'd say watch Scissor 7. Even Sword Art Online, I'd say watch over this. This show is super watered down Greek mythology, and it doesn't even handle it well. And that's really all I got to say about that. Thanks for tuning in. Leave a like and a comment down below if you've enjoyed the video. If you think I'm wrong, go ahead and leave a comment down there as well. I've been Devin. Have a good one.